Namaste. Welcome to the class today. Yes. As we know, Kathak is the only Indian classical dance to draw from both Hindu and Islamic influences. It has an opportunity to blend cultures regardless of religious differences. This becomes important in the wake of the fact that there has always been religious influence on Indian arts. While many saw Kathak as an ancient tradition, history, and orality, Margaret Walker, director of the School of Music at the Queen's University in Ontario, Canada, disagreed. She says, having deconstructed the history of the classical dance, Walker argues that Kathak is a 20th century revival dance form that draws from a variety of sources, harking specially to Hinduism and Islam. As in the early part, we have successfully established the fact that Kathak saw an unprecedented efflorescence during the Bhakti period. Could one say the same of Kathak and Sufi links? Meditative practices of the Sufis, especially the repetitive whirling and pirouettes and the Sufi imagery of dance, would certainly suggest that. Emerging around the year 800, the Sufis were originally pious devotees whose poor woolen clothes showed their humility. Sufi comes from the Arabic word suf, which stands for wool. Above all, the Sufis sought the divine reality or ultimate truth that stands above all the illusions and deceptions of the material world. In order to achieve ascetic union with the God, they incorporated techniques of sound and movement, chanting and music, swaying and dance. Believers joined the tight-knit brotherhood or the tariqs, each following a charismatic leader, shaykh, while the Islamic courts later went on to patronize music and dance. More is owed to the Sufi shrines. It was the footprint of Sufi influence across India in the religious, meditative, and performative practices during the early century of the Muslim rule in India. Dhikr or zikr is the repetition of God's name as a meditative exercise. It was the prescribed method of devotion for the Sufis. The dhikr is usually done individually, but in some Sufi orders or silsilas, it is instituted as a ceremonial activity. In some silsilas, particularly the popular Chistiya silsila, music and dance were permitted forms of dhikr. For this, while in other parts of the world the Sufis had been persecuted, in India they found a more welcoming environment. And this mystical music sessions called Sema became a defining feature of Sufism in India. In the present context of dance, almost all dance styles have started using Sufi songs, though they have their origins or their support system in the temples and royal courts. So one can easily say that the tolerance and the encompassing nature of India and its philosophy is so very clearly shown in its dance styles. Sufism is believed to have passed through 3 stages in medieval India, of which the first was the Khanak stage that lasted till the end of the 12th century. Khanak was a place where wandering Sufis congregated to pursue the devotional life under a master, although there was no special bond between the master and student. The second stage was in the Tariq stage, which began in the 13th century, and it was distinguished by the formation of schools around masters. There was a Pir Murid master disciple relationship, and each Khanik was defined by a degree of systemization, differentiation, and specialization. At the time of Firoz Shah Tughlaq, that is 1309 to 1388, 120 Khanaks were built. He built a major madrasa at Hauz Khas that became one of the most important centers of Islamic learning. The third and final stage of Sufism was the Taifa stage, which commenced from 15th century onwards. Veneration of the Pir, who was an intermediary between the disciple and God, became the hallmark of this stage, resulting in the Pirs being recognized as saints. Their orders became hereditary and their shrines were empowered by the barakat of the saint to become centers of devotion. This is also the period when women began visiting the shrines, and even though they were not allowed to enter, they were happy to make offerings from outside in the hope the Pir would mediate with the supreme power on their behalf. Many devotional practices at that shrines developed at this stage, which were familiar to and similar to Hindu practices like circumambulation, touching relics, lighting lamps, candles and incense, fasting, witnessing miracles, offering nazar to the successors, and singing devotional songs. By this time, Sufism had really captured public attention and affection, and huge crowds would throng the shrines, participating in the qawwalis and other mehfils or the gatherings. Some of these mehfils also included songs that would be sung and performed by the renowned musicians and dancing girls of Delhi. While dancing girls had no direct association with religious institutions, being patronized mostly by the court and the aristocracy, it became a custom for them to visit the shrines of saints revered by Hindus and Muslims. Here they sang songs in praise of the Prophet and poems composed by Sufi poets. There was also a tradition of gatherings in the homes of living Sufi saints. Their shrines became important centers of cultural life of Delhi in the medieval times. As medieval India prospered with towns, marketplaces and cantonments coming into being, the sensibilities of the Indian moved from the fixity of Sanskrit to a more flexible environment with a lot of give and take of languages, traditions and features. This was the environment that gave the intellectual space for the rise of Sufi faith and the Bhakti movement. Even today, the Sufis are the power that has made Islam the world's second largest religion, with perhaps 1.2 billion adherents. They are not a sect of Islam, but rather heirs of an ancient mystical tradition within both the Sunni and Shia branches of the faith. The word Sufi conjures up images of mystical poetry or dance. 13th century poet Rumi was a legendary Sufi, as are Turkey's whirling dervishes. But these are just the most visible expressions of a movement that runs deeply through the last 1,000 years of Islam. Mention must be made of one of the less acknowledged strands of Indian Sufism, the mystic Krishnite tradition developed by Muslim Sufis. In the verses that these Sufis composed, which are widely sung in the North Indian countryside, the love, Leela,
between Krishna and his gopis forms the central image and motif, symbolizing the perfect attachment between the Sufi and God. Two names stand out in this context, that of Malik Muhammad Jaisi and Ras Khan. Malik Muhammad Jaisi was born in 1477 and passed away in 1542, who wrote the first significant work in the Awadhi dialect, established a flow of love-linked cult, Prema Shrayi Dhara, in Nirguna Brahmopasana, selecting the medium of the story of Padmavati and Ratnasen. By the metaphor of meeting and separation, Sanyoga and Viyoga, he dedicated the essence of Gyan and Yoga. Accepting this very basic concept, Jayasi in his Padmavat wrote about erotic worldly love and spiritual unworldly love in Masanavi Shaili. It is believed that his ancestors were residents of Arab and they came into India probably in connection with their business. He lost his one eye due to attack of smallpox in his early childhood. His parents left this world when he was a child and wandered here and there with saints and fakirs. Later he lost all his sons to death, following which he felt such severe vairagya from the world that he entered the world of Sufis. He made the Sufi saint Sheikh Mubarak Mu'addal his guru and accepted the path of Sufi religious faith. His fame as a Sufi saint spread abroad, and from his works he explained the Sufi ideas. In using Krishnite imagery, the Sufi perform a dual purpose, making their doctrines more intelligible to the masses and bringing Hindus and Muslims closer to each other in a shared universe of discourse. The most well-known of the Indian Muslim Sufis, who wrote principally in the Krishnite mold, was the 16th century Ras Khan. Ras Khan's name means mine of nectar. It is Rasa Khan, and Rasa Khan's name means mine of nectar. Much of the little that we know about his life is shrouded in mystery and myth. His actual name is said to have been Ibrahim Khan, and he was born in the village of Pihani in the Hardoi district in what is now known as Uttar Pradesh. As to how he embarked on the Krishnite faith and path, there are great differences of opinion. According to one story, as contained in the medieval text Bhaktatala Padruma, he once travelled to Vrindavan along with his Sufi preceptor. There he fell unconsciously and had a vision of Krishna. Thereafter, he remained in Vrindavan till he breathed his last. Another version is that Ras Khan fell in love with a very proud woman, but later, on reading the Bhagavat Purana, he was so deeply impressed by the unselfish love of the gopis for Krishna that he left his proud mistress and headed straight for Vrindavan. There are several more, and that can't be recounted here in the interest of brevity. The fact is that Rasa Khan began living in Vrindavan, composing and singing the Krishnite Sufi poetry for which he is still so fondly remembered. Rasa Khan also spoke both Hindi and Persian and wrote in Brij Bhasha. He translated the Bhagavat Puran into Persian. Rasa Khan's verses in his best known work, Prema Vatika, which consists of 53 verses, mostly deal with the nature of true spiritual love, using the love between Radha and Krishna as the model. His verses have become a part of the Kathak Abhinaya repertoire. The poetry of Rasa Khan focuses on the Leelas of Lord Krishna, such as Bala Leela, Chiraharana Leela, Kunja Ras Leela, and Panghata Leela. Apart from Leelas, Rasa Khan has also created poems on Shiva, Ganga, and the festival of Holi. Many dancers have used his evocative poetry in Kathak. Shovana Narayan created an entire evening out of his poetry in 2002 called Rasa Rasika Rasa Khan, based on the eternal Leelas of Krishna that Rasa Khan had so eloquently written about, but also on the fact that he regarded Krishna as the supreme Godhead who actually has no physical form. In effect, then, what we have here is a Krishnite form of Sufism. In fact, as early as in 1980, Shovana Narayan had anticipated this link. She used for the first time the poetry of Rumi and drew Sufi Vaishnava parallel, juxtaposing Rumi's verses with the poetry of Surdas and Bihari in the production called Ne Bansuri. In contemporary times, possibly the first dancer to call in distinctly Sufi poetry to populate and inspire Kathak dance was Maya Rao. When Rao was in Moscow as a postgraduate student of choreography, as part of her coursework, she was expected to tap off a theme, adapt a script, and present short excerpts, no more than a scene or two, to the panel of examiners. It was then that she thought of Amir Khusru, as the poet was promoter of peace. In fact, the word Mir in Russian meant peace, and as the Republic of Tajikistan was then part of the erstwhile Russia, she felt that there would be an instant connect. She collected a lot of information on Amir Khusru from the Oriental manuscript section of the Moscow Library. She got the renowned composer of music Balsayanyan, a Nehru awardee, and the composer of ballet Shakuntala, on which she was a consultant, to compose the music in the Tajik style, and that is how the idea of choreography called Amir Khusru was born. On her return in 1970, the Amir Khusru Centenary Committee invited her to present a ballet of Amir Khusru on the occasion of his 7th centenary celebration. The ballet was successful and was performed in Delhi, Kashmir, and his birthplace Etawah in Uttar Pradesh, before travelling to the other parts of the country and overseas. The sitar, tabla, tarana, and qawwali were all a major part of the production, chosen as he was credited with having created them. It was finally invited to Russia as well, completing the circle.
In 2014, Shashwati Sen danced the poetry of Amir Khusro for the Dilli Ka Apna Utsav. When it came to the Rang, she danced draping dupattas of different colors on herself, so that in the end, as she pirouetted in complete silence, there was every color moving along with her. In 1980, renowned Kathak dancer Shovana Narayan performed a composition called Ishrate Farda. This was based on the works of Amir Khusru, Kabir, Lal Ded, Rabia al-Basra. In the first version, Ishrate Farda was performed to verses of Amir Khusru and Kabir. Later, from mid-90s, verses of Lal Ded and Rabia al-Basra were added. This production was performed at various times and on various occasions and at various venues of Delhi and Lucknow since 1980. But even earlier, Shovana had worked on a Sufi theme when in 1974 she created a work called Omar Khayyam. This was a memorial program for her first guru, Sadhana Bose. It was performed at Kala Mandir, Kolkata. The script, called out from the works of Omar Khayyam, reflected the transiency of life and desire of each soul to be ultimately united with the universal soul. Later in 1998, she created The Search Within, Antara Yatra. This work was created as an international collaboration with Austrian curator Werner Dornick. The search within was for Shovana a spiritual journey. For each journey was a personal journey that seldom was in a smooth one. Some may realize the transient nature of life and the material world while seeking union with the divine. With the immortal poem of Ali Sardar Zafri, Abla Pa, serving as the link, the Sufi's journey was described in the thoughts of mystics like Amir Khusro, Kabir, Maulana Rumi, and the lady mystics Lal Dil of Kashmir and Rabiba Ali Basra. Shovana has also used the poetry of Bhakti and Sufi poets as well as modern ones when she has dealt with a theme. For instance, in her work Chand, she used the poems of Malik Muhammad Jayasi, Surdars, and Harivansh Rai Bachchan to convey many facets of how the moon appeals to us and how we engage with us.
In more recent times, US based dancer Astha Dixit, disciple of Pandit Birju Maharaj and Malati Shyam, got inspired by the Sufi way of life that she has studied in her visits to the Dargah of Khane Niyazia. She plans to take a distant Sufi style of Kathak across the world. Her love for Sufism and admiration for the medieval Persian poet Amir Khusru brought the Kathak exponent to the Dargah, which is looked after by the descendants of the great Sufi Saint Khwaja Mohinuddin Chishti of Ajmer Sharif. The Sufi tradition is a shared one between India and Pakistan. It is therefore no surprise that Nahik Siddiqui has also worked on Sufi poetry of Bulle Shah and Amir Khusru. You know Nahik Siddiqui is one of the brilliant Pakistani dancers. The Sufi way of life evidently inspires the young generation, as very recently Srimati Kumudini Lakhia choreographed a Sufiana ghazal by poet Amir Khusru for dancers Akash Odedra and Sanyukta Sinha. At the Fez Sacred Music Festival that also makes space for dance in 2012, young Kathak dancers Anuj Mishra and Neha Singh performed singly and in a duet. Similarly, at the World Sufi Festival in Nagaur in 2015, Parasmal Solanki and other members of the Malani Sanskritik Kala Kendra from Jisol in Barmer performed as did a Gher group. For the first time, a fusion was experimented with the Sufi festival with Kathak dancer Anuprama from Jodhpur. This experiment captured the sounds of drumsticks and gungrus performing together. I must tell you, the sizable body of work created by Rani Khanam. Rani claims that Islam is my faith, Kathak is my life. It is a natural step for me to explore the self in terms of the other. It pours from my heart. I practice Islam and I practice dance. I decided to learn in order to seek the truth in dancing to Islamic verses. Since my birth, I have been hearing the azan and the verses of Quran, which I have also studied. They create divine vibrations in my body, moving me closer to spirituality. Rani draws our attention to the fact that there is a body movement that is made while reading the Quran. These verses are also in Tarannum, she says, and so the musicality of Bhakti poetry and the inherent musicality in the reading of the verses of Quran appeal to the aesthetics in her. Since she belongs to Chishtiya Silsila, she is a murid of Khankehe Nijami in Bareilly. This shrine has become spiritual center for classical artists. Many legendary masters like the Dagar brothers, Pandit Birju Maharaj, Naina Deviji, etc. were murids of this Khanka. The Khankahe Nijami's Dargah Sharif is the only shrine in India where Urs, the annual festival, is celebrated with Mausiki, that is music, and Rak, that is dance. Like the others, every year since 1996, I have regularly given Hazri performance here by presenting Kathak with Sufiana compositions. Having been born a Muslim, I feel I have a great and added advantage as I understand the beauty and intellectual background of this mystical composition, says Rani. Because Rani works often in the context of Sufi poetry and Islamic verses, her work has been hailed as the crescent in Kathak. Her first composition, Hum, which means a poetic piece in praise of Allah, was in 1995. It commenced with Islamic verses or kalma, that are the opening lines of Quran Sharif. Bismillah ul Rahman ul Rahim, in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Another performance was based on the Sufi poetry of Khwaja Usman Haruni, who was the master of great Sufi Garib Nawaz Khwaja Maunuddin Chishti of Ajmer. Nami danam ke akhir chunda mein didar mi raksam magar nazam bai zak peshe yar mi rakban. I do not know why a glimpse of you makes me dance, but I take pride in the fact that my love for you makes me dance. Rani has also danced select ghazals and poetry of the immortal Sufi poets like the aforementioned Sufi saint Amir Khusru, Bulle Shah, Lal Del, who also called the second Rabia, Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, Hazrat Shah Niyaz Ahmed, and many more, as part of regular concerts too. Since 1999, she has been choreographing these spiritual Sufiana compositions in the form of ensemble work. Some of her memorable choreographics for a group are Bismillah, Hum Kawalis, Andaz-e Rak, Nisbat, Sufiana Ghazals, Tarana, In the Name of Allah, and such. In the Name of God, Khanam showcased her concept of the body as the flower and the soul as its fragrance with slow, graceful movement to the tune of Amir Khusru and Rumi poetry. A paper was presented by Professor Parul Shah in the World Dance and Music Conference in Russia, and the topic was on the dance, the erotic and the mystic, which was the Indian Shangar and the mystic of the Sufi poetry, and how in recent years both are coming together in Indian classical dance.
For the last 2 decades, Rani Khanam has performed regularly at reputed international festivals. Her ensemble represented through the ICCR in the Salam International Festival of Islamic Arts in London, with legions of Sufi musicians, singers and dancers from around the world. This was curated to show the world the beauty and peace of Islam. Here she performed the Sounds of Spell, a Sufiana dance performance for inauguration of the Islamic Art Museum in the presence of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Their Majesties the King and the Queen of Malaysia was another highlight. Tlemcen in Algeria, that has been declared the Islamic cultural capital of the world for the year 2011. A significant presence at the International Sufi Festival, Rani was collaborated with another great Sufi musicians, singers and dancers, and studied the medium of Sufism very closely and carefully. Among the Sufi musicians, scholars and followers of Sufi saints that she has worked with are masters from Egypt, Turkey, Yemen, Iraq, Kenya, Morocco and even China. Finally, Manjari Chaturvedi is a well-known name associated with a form called Sufi Kathak. Sufi Kathak is a new art form created by Manjari Chaturvedi. Manjari Chaturvedi is a Kathak dancer of the Lucknow Gharana who has been experimenting with the Darbari Kathaki and Sufi Kathak. In the former, she associates with actress Nisha Singh to do popular shows telling the story of the Tawaifs and the dancing girls of India in a program called The Lost Songs of the Courtesans. In the second format, she has larger body of work as she often collaborates with different sets of musicians. She has combined the mysticism of Sufi tradition with her dance to create a rather dramatic school of Sufi Kathak. Some of her collaborators have been the Langas and Manganiyars, Kavvals among the others. She has done more than 250 concerts in 22 countries and takes real great care to present herself and the program with great elegance and an old world charm in costuming and jewelry. Manjari was part of the first ever edition of Jane Khushru created by Muzaffar Ali. Ali has since been her promoter. Even Astha Dikshit has been part of the Jane Khushru festival in 2013, where she danced with the whirling dervishes and also to live singing of Malini Avasthi. Thus, Sufi music, Sufiana thoughts are getting more and more sensible to dancers and also encouraging medium to dancer for selecting in this multicultural, multiracial and secular milieu. Thank you.